We are live. Welcome to the House of Trust live stream. Today with Jonas Anker, founder and chairman of Anker Capital. Today we're going to talk about what can founders learn from somebody who has built companies, invested across multiple industries and allocated more than 250 million Swiss francs into entrepreneurial ventures. This conversation explores Jonas' journey from entrepreneur to investor, the lessons learned along the way, and practical insights for founders looking to build enduring companies. And with that saying, dear Jonas, welcome to the live stream.
Thank you so much.
First of all, I'm a huge fan of what you have established and built. It's impressive. And coming from Switzerland, Jonas, this is not a typical mindset of what you have built. Where does this come from?
Honestly, I think it's simply the way I have been thinking all my life. I wanted to build big and meaningful things since I was a little boy. So I would say it's simply embedded in my DNA.
Mhm. Was there a specific experience that shaped you and your entrepreneurial mindset?
Many, obviously, but I think growing up, not very privileged. First, I was with my single mother in social housing in Bern, and that was definitely for me an experience that shaped me a lot because I realized very early on that all these statements when people say, "Oh, money doesn't make you happy, you don't need money," I realized very early on that this is a lie. I would not necessarily say that money makes you happy, but a German rapper actually called Bass, he said that very nicely when he said, "Geld macht nicht glücklich, aber Geld macht Glück möglich." In
Hmm.
English, he said, "Money doesn't make you happy, but it is actually enabling happiness because it's freedom, it's financial security, stability, it's opening up the world to you, right? In terms of anything, in terms of traveling, in terms of seeing the world, in terms of building something for your family." So that's my view on money, and it actually has been my view on money since very early childhood days.
Mhm. So, as I understand, Jonas, it was the lack of money, the difficult situation that you grew up in, and the pursuit and the motivation inside of you to say, I'm going to change the situation. Is this right?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
It instilled a lot of hunger and persistency, I would say.
And how can listeners imagine this journey? How did you start it?
I started actually 2014 when I was studying law in Zurich. A training buddy of mine, he came to me and said, "Hey, you should come work for me." And I was like, "Yeah, why? What do you do?" "Yeah, we do private equity, venture capital." And I was like, "Huh? Please repeat again." And then he was like, "Yeah, have you seen Wolf of Wall Street?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, it's that, but serious." And me being young, cocky, I was like, "Okay, that sounds cool." And then actually, I said no to him after a few weeks, and then went to not Hurghada, to El Guna in Egypt for myself for 10 days on a diving vacation because I was actually just separating from my girlfriend back then. And on purpose, I wanted to spend some time for myself to, yeah, find myself and spend some time just with me. And I actually realized there, I'll never forget that I was sitting in the bus going from the dive station back home. And I was like, "Dude, are you really happy with your life?" I was like, "No, I'm actually not happy with my life. I'm studying law in Zurich because it was expected from my family that I study. It was like the easy way for me to make some money eventually because I was always relatively smart academically from an academical point of view. I'm very good at learning things. I can read things and basically remember it at heart immediately. So that's also why I studied law because it's basically just learning things by heart and then apply it in an exam. And I was like, "Hey, I'm not happy with my studying. I'm not happy with my lifestyle. I worked as a bouncer there to finance my life, my university career." And I was like, "Dude, somebody's offering you a chance here. Potentially, it could be big." And my concept of life and also about happiness has a lot to do with seeing opportunities, seeing gifts. Many people speak about luck, but what is luck actually? You need to be open and embrace luck when it's being presented to you, and it's very seldomly a present that is written on this is your luck, and then you open it and you are lucky. It comes disguised in many different forms, and you need to have the openness to actually see it when it's being presented to you. So I was like, hey, maybe this is my destiny offering me something that I actually should embark on a new mission, a new chapter. And then I called him. I was like, so me, I'm coming. And then when I came back, I started just after my birthday, which was end of September, and I basically started 1st of October as a sales guy, as investor relations guy in his venture firm in Zurich at Bahnhofstrasse 106 originally, where I started, and immediately I saw that this is a very interesting space. You can actually make money while also creating an impact, because if you build ventures that want to change things, obviously you can make change, you can be part of the solution while obviously also making money, because if you pick the right ones or if you build the right ones, there is a lot of financial incentive involved. So that's how I started in October 2014, suddenly making a lot of money. In my first month I made 20k, and going from like 1.5k to 20k, it's like two different worlds, and that opened up completely new opportunities and possibilities for me. It was a very rocky way in the beginning, to be honest, because I had to learn a lot. It was a completely new industry. University doesn't teach you about venture capital, at least not back then. Now there are courses you can do if you, because venture is growing so much globally as an industry, as an asset class. So I had to learn a lot, but honestly, I would say after the first month, I was like, wow, this is something that I really see a huge opportunity in. And I was ready to embark on that journey and be open to more possibilities that would be presented along the way. And that's how it happened. I stayed with him. I knew pretty fast that he is not my right partner. So I was looking for ways and opportunities to split from him and completely be independent, which actually isn't easy in the beginning if you start completely on your own. And as I said, coming from no money, being a fucking nobody, and then you wanna raise capital, you wanna get mandates, you wanna get good deals. Why should somebody work with me, right? So I needed some time, relatively little time. Took me a year to really build some relationships, some network, to then eventually split from him, which was basically end of Q1 26, where I split from him. And basically, that's now a decade ago. And since then, I'm completely independent on my own. Started first with Anker Capital as a pure brokerage business. And yeah, the first seed investment that we then made, 2016, became eventually a unicorn in 22. And that obviously helped a lot to build a good brand, to build good relationships, because in the end we had over 10 billionaires, a lot of VCs and PEs, family offices in the cap table. And within the venture ecosystem, everybody knew Utopia Music. There were a lot of news articles. I got Francisco Fernandez involved, a very well-known self-made billionaire, that then also turned out to become my biggest investor. Invested a shitload of capital alongside me in different ventures. Then also one of my own ventures that I launched was Music Bird, where we buy music copyrights. And Francisco became the biggest investor as well in Music Bird. Joined the board of directors, where he still is till today. So yeah, that was part of my journey.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jonas. Now, for people listening who are just at the beginning of the journey, let's put them back into the moment when you started. How does somebody builds reputation and trust?
Reputation and trust comes from two things, I would say. One very important thing is persistency, discipline, and continuity. Means when I was a nobody, I started with cold calling, right? I called up people from an address list as I got presented to start building relationships and eventually sell to them investment opportunities. So when you come with a deal and you keep coming with the same deal where you show progress, then eventually you will be able to close a deal with that person. And then over time, you build a relationship with that person. And it's all about what I said. You need to be on them constantly with good news, showing progress, showing success. What I don't like and what I see in many people, especially today, when I meet new people, and I don't need new people, right? Today I'm in a very privileged situation. I don't need to work for to finance my lifestyle. I can stop working today if I would want to. So it's a privilege that I have today. And one thing I actually do when I meet people, I just wait. I look what they present me, how is the stuff developing that they come with, things they're excited about, maybe even things they invested in or things they want me to invest in. And then there are some people that they come after half a year, they come always with a new thing. And then 1 year later again, they come with a new thing. And these are the people that I stay away from genuinely, because these are not the kind of people that I want around myself. The other way around, if I have people that tell me, hey, I put in $1 million into this US venture, and then 3 months later, I see they are raising a bigger round at a higher valuation. Okay, let's have a look. Then maybe I don't invest. Half a year later, again, they come, raise again capital at a higher valuation, and they show a lot of progress. And then eventually I get interested and say, hey, okay, let's talk. What else you do? So I like to test people just with the KPI of time, seeing what are they telling me and what actually are they delivering. So that's why, especially if you're nobody and just starting, that's what you need to do. You need to have something that is adding value to a person's life or to a person's portfolio. And then you need to show persistency, discipline, and obviously some kind of success in what you're presenting. And then over time, that will create trust. That's how I started.
Reflecting back how you mentioned the persistency and the cold leads that you were doing, relationship building, human relations, such an important topic. Now, Jonas, how many of the deals at the beginning of your stage, but also today, are happening purely digitally, where you talk with people, and how many of the deals are happening while meeting people physically?
Today, a lot of the deals are happening digitally, but that's a privilege that I had to earn over a long period of time. As said, once you have established trust, once you've established a good relationship with people, I can call up people on the phone and they say, "Hey, Jonas, I put in 1 million," but they know me over many years. They have made money with me. They have seen exits that we did successfully. So that's a different scenario today than it was back in the days. So obviously in the beginning, it's all about personal relationship. And in the beginning, I spent so much time meeting people for lunch, for coffee, for dinner, for party. I went to so many networking events. I joined different kind of clubs to get access to high quality people. And in the beginning, it's really just about the person connection and building up a relationship. And it's doable over Zoom as well. But obviously, the personal touch makes it much easier.
Jonas, was there a specific moment, a book, a person, a mentor that shaped your business and your entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, um, I would say a few people, to be honest, but the most important one actually was my Kung Fu teacher that I had
Mm,
from basically 10, 11 when I started till roughly 17. He was my Kung Fu teacher, my Kung Fu master, however you want to call that. These were also very, very important years in a young man's journey. I would say he was a mix between having no father myself or growing up without a father. I I was unlucky or unprivileged, but on the same time, I was very lucky that I had different men that took this position or this role of a father during different periods in my life. And in my young adolescence, definitely my Kung Fu teacher was a combination of father, mentor, that taught me a lot, obviously combined with the way we were learning, studying martial arts, which was a very analytical way. Also the combination of mentally, cognitively understanding how you use your body effectively to generate more force or more stability or more speed. um, that combination from working with your mind, working with your head, combined with working with your muscle, but also with your heart and your emotion, that is a very unique approach, I think, to forming and building character. And that was probably the biggest gift that I received in my life, to start studying Chinese martial arts, and then also started teaching at the age of 13. I was teaching 60-year-old people when I was 14. So imagine, at such a young age, you suddenly are in the role of an instructor where you try to teach people Wing Chun, I Chuan, Bagua, Tai Chi, it doesn't really matter. But that 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 taught me so much on so many different levels. I said one obviously was building the mind. The world we live in is, it's all about mind, right? It's all about energy, but it all starts up here in your mind. So understanding how the mind works and actually being able to channel my energy as well as my physical force with my mind, and then also having these different roles, being student, being teacher, that that helped me to develop my character and my human skills as well in a very very young age. And I think this was the biggest and most impactful mentorship that I experienced in my life. The whole work I did during these years. I mean, I was free. We had 3 4 classes per week, right? So basically 3 4 times I was there with Daniel, learning Chinese martial arts, fighting, crying, getting injured, whatever. So it was a very very intense, close relationship that I had with him, but obviously also with my teammates. So this was honestly the most shaping experience also in regards to my entrepreneurial journey, because for me being an entrepreneur has so much to do with discipline, persistency, not giving up, believing in yourself. And I would say that all these qualities I really learned through martial arts, and then later also through combat sport.
When it comes to investing, Jonas, how much do you look at the project and how much do you look at the founder that he has these characteristics that you just mentioned?
At
Persistence.
least 90% is just the founder, at least.
Yeah. And talking about the injuries that you had or maybe setbacks, what would you give for an advice to young founders who have setbacks, who have difficulties to overcome these moments and transform it into opportunities? What would you say?
Honestly, I'm a big believer and fan of martial arts in general. I think, and I can only advise everybody to go in whatever you like. Go in a boxing gym, go in a karate class, go in a kung fu class. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But if you get used to getting punched in the face or get hurt a bit physically, but actually you're able to keep on doing, and you have a plan and you keep executing your plan, that gives you such an unfair advantage towards other people or other founders that did not go through the same hardshipness that I went through. Also for me, that helped me so much still today. Obviously, also being tall and big, it helped me a lot in general. Because when I started, I was 25 and I was selling to 60-year-old multimillionaires investments. So they need to take me seriously, right? And they always took me seriously already when I was 25 in that business. So I think honestly, having a hobby where you have that physical contact and where you need to overcome physical pain, you need to overcome setbacks, losses, that helps you so much for an entrepreneurial journey. I mean, there are many other ways as well, but this is one way that I experienced extensively myself. And as said, I see so many benefits on so many different levels. Having a healthy, sharp mind martial arts has such a massive positive impact on your mind, on your mental health, which is incredibly important if you wanna build successfully ventures.
Yeah, there's this beautiful saying, where focus goes, energy flows, right? And
Yes.
there is also this famous book called The Secret, about the law of attraction.
Yes.
Have you used the law of attraction along your journey?
I would say subconsciously, yes. I read the book as well. For me, it was very esoteric back then. Um,
Mhm.
I would say with the age, or with the age, I'm 35. I'm not old, but still, I'm not 20 anymore. My openness to maybe even a little bit esoteric spirituality has increased compared to when I was younger. But subconsciously, of course, what do you what you radiate, the energy that you give out, is also what you get back. And I always knew I'm very integer, I'm very honest, I'm very straightforward. I don't want to fuck around, I don't want to mess with people, I don't want to bullshit them. I want to build long lasting relationships, and I want to build long lasting success. So this was always, since young childhood age, this was an inner belief that was for me super clear, and no debate around that, right? That was simple, my strong belief, and the way I wanted to build businesses, the way I wanted to build relationships. So I think that is very important. You need to have positive inner intentions, because that's also what people will feel.
Do you ever had doubts, Jonas?
You maybe you should specify the question. Doubts about what?
Do you ever had doubts about succeeding, or was for you always clear, I'm going to make it?
The absolute honest truth is, I was never 1 second doubtful about me or my skills, and this is doesn't come from a place of arrogance. It was simply always my deepest belief, but also, to be very transparent, it was an experience that I had from a very young childhood age already, right? I was considered very gifted as a hochbegabt. I jumped the third grade because I was very intelligent, very smart. So basically, from a very young age, I always got that feedback from the outside world that in some ways I am better than other people. I'm not worth more than others, but I was faster, I was stronger, I was cognitively way more developed than other people. Then obviously, when I started to learn Chinese martial arts and started to teach people that were 40 years older than me, but I was so much better than them at what I did. Obviously, that really helped to build and instill a very deep self confidence in me. So I think that in that regard, I was very privileged in terms of my childhood and in terms of my young adolescence age. Right, other people, they just spend time with shitty friends and smoke weed every second, every day. I have many friends that went that down that route. Actually, even people working now for me that spent their adolescence smoking weed, basically. And nothing against that, right? That everybody has a different journey. But obviously, if you compare that smoking weed for 3 years with your friends and basically doing nothing, building no character, building no discipline, building no physical strength, building no mental strength, versus the path I went down, obviously that helps a lot to 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 build character and to build self confidence. So the honest truth really is, I was never 1 second doubtful that I would achieve big things. And I actually think that also helped a lot, because again, what you feel in yourself and what you actually radiate is also what you receive, right? Because people feel that. It's also attracting people, right? People like self-confident people, not arrogant people, but self-confident people that are disciplined. Many people see that as a role model, right? It's like, wow, I like that. I would like to be also more like that in some regard. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And I mean, what comes to my mind are Conor McGregor or Ilya Topuria, who already speak into existence, you know? when I watch this video from Conor McGregor, how he says he was driving in his old shitty car in Ireland, but he was believing he's sitting in his Lambo driving down the stripe in Las Vegas and speaking that they are already a world champion and having such a conviction and speaking into reality. Wow, that was super inspiring also for me. And talking about fighting and martial arts, 6 weeks ago I had my first Muay Thai fight in Thailand,
Congrats.
and it was a really really special experience. A lot of adrenaline,
Yeah.
a lot of, a lot of pain afterwards, but also a lot of learnings. And my strategy was let the guy pace out 2 minutes, and then the last minute I will go fully on him. But once you get punched in your face, don't have a plan anymore.
Very
And
true.
so definitely a lifetime
What weight
experience.
division
Now,
did you fight?
the guy was 2 heads taller than me. It was not a weight division. It was like a sparring fight, but yeah, a real fight in our martial arts academy class. So yeah, the trainer had fun to put me with a guy who is much heavier and taller than me.
Aha, okay. So you didn't really win
Yes.
the fight.
I lost the fight on points, but definitely I'm gonna try it again in October when we are back in Thailand, and now with the package of experience.
Nice.
Uh, Moving back to business, Jonas, was there a specific gap in the market that you saw that made you create Anker Capital?
No, that would be a lie. I just realized through my early, or when I started working for Sumi Financial, where I started in end of 2014, I realized very fast that I'm very good at that job, right? Because I always say I'm not a typical sales guy, and this is just the truth. Look at me and then look at your Mercedes-Benz dealer. It's very different personalities. But actually, when it comes to business and investments, I realized that pretty fast that people like integrity. They like honest, direct people. So my way of being actually was, some people didn't like it, obviously. He's too aggressive, he's too pushy. That typically were the billionaires that didn't make the money themselves. So that was one learning for me. Typically, people that inherited a lot of wealth. Now I'm different because I'm older, I'm more relaxed. But when I started, I had no money. I was young, I was cocky, I was aggressive, which is important. Obviously, you need to be aggressive. One message here quickly: people telling you shouldn't be aggressive. It's the biggest fucking lie on the planet. You have to be
How do you mean?
aggressive. Use your aggression, and not in a negative way. You don't need to bully people, you don't need to hurt people. But aggression is a very strong, powerful, primitive emotion. It's a very, very archaic emotion that is very strong, and you need to use it, especially when you're young and full of energy. Use that aggression to push forwards, to push through your message, to push through your business, right? So this, I think, is very, I said, in a good way. Like you learn when you go fight, you need to have your aggression when you go fight, but not aggression in a negative way. Blah blah blah. Then you're a brawler. That's not the way successful fighters fight. But aggression is very important, especially when you're young and you want to build things. So I use that very much to my advantage. But sorry, now I was shifting a bit. What was your original
All good.
question, Stefan?
Um, was there a specific market gap that you wanted to enter with Anker
Exactly,
Capital? That was the
exactly. So no, when I started in the industry and I realized I'm a good sales guy in that business because people like my way of being, I just saw that this is an opportunity for me to build something for myself. Because again, if you don't come from money, if you don't have if you don't have rich parents or anything to build upon, you need to build somewhere a foundation, right? And since I realized, hey, I like that industry, I'm thanks God pretty smart, and I learn things very fast, and I can connect the dots, something many people cannot do. So I realized my skill set is very valuable in that industry. So it was for me more like, hey, I see here an opportunity to build something for myself, to build my first business where I generate income, where I basically build a base, a foundation that would allow me to then scale and do other things, build other businesses, enter into different markets, different asset classes, which I then also did, right? Later, I founded my real estate company to buy real estate in Switzerland. Then I launched Anker Swiss, where it's basically temporary work company like a deco with a focus on construction sites that we scaled now in 3 4 years to over 30 million top line revenue with 6 locations already all around Switzerland. So this was just a way for me to start my career as an entrepreneur and businessman. That's the honest answer.
Thank you so much for sharing. How would you describe today Anker Capital in one sentence?
Today, Anker Capital is a mix between my family office and my investment firm, where we look at 500 plus deals annually. And then we have two strategies. One are passive investments, where we typically co-invest with some of the biggest brands on the planet, like Andreessen Horowitz, where we made our first investment in Q4 last year as a co-investment. Or we go in as a very active investor, where we almost like incubate deals, which means we work then very closely with the founders for 1 year, for 2 years, where we restructure the company and the business model in a way that we massively de-risk our downside risk while increasing our upside potential. So we basically create the asymmetric risk-reward ratio, which is what every investor out there is looking for. And at some point in my career, I realized and learned that this is very hard to find. So actually best is to build it myself. And I would say this is what we do with Anker Capital today.
Was there a specific person or a role model, Jonas, that you were looking up to?
Elon Musk.
In which sense? In which criteria?
Honestly, a guy that, I mean, as we all know, he became the first trillionaire in English in human history. But I mean, this is not relevant to me. But a guy that also comes from not so much, that had a very hard, difficult life, and he built so many 100 billion plus companies, and he risked constantly everything for his beliefs, right? Several times he backed companies with all his money just because he believed. I mean, watch documentaries, read the bio. I think the biography is very well written because it's not at all just a positive picture or image that is being shown from him. I think it's a very authentic and real image of him. So I love people that have balls and actually put in their own money and do not just talk, but actually do. Because I think many people, especially when they have money, they're fucking pussies. And I hate pussies. Pussies in a way, obviously, I like female pussy. This is very good. I like women. I mean that in a very respectful way. But male pussies that have no balls and that cannot put their actions, their money behind what they say, this I really, really hate. And I have met so many of them, right? Being billionaires. And then eventually after 1 or 2 years, they invested 1 million or so. I was like, bro, what the fuck, man? So, what do you want to do? Die with your 10 billion that you have on the bank account? Use that money because it's, for me, it's responsibility. Use that to do something good, right? What you believe in, what you want to change, and then put your money, your energy, your network, your capital behind that. And Elon did that repeatedly.
Yes.
And this is why I'm such a, I mean, he's not perfect. He also did things I disagree, obviously. But as said, he repeatedly risked and risks all his money just to make his dreams, his visions become a reality. And at the speed and execution that I have the utmost respect for.
There is this beautiful sentence that I just read today. It says, go all in, because half in is actually all out. There is magic in the last little bit. New levels unlocked simply because so few have the courage to go there.
Yes.
And that totally describes what you just said.
Yes.
One of the things that stayed with me when I read the documentary, the book of Elon Musk, was when he realized that he can sustain his life with $1 a day. That set him free. That made him realize that no matter how much money he has, he can overcome every challenge because he can live with $1 a day, and that somehow shifted his money mindset. That was pretty interesting. And yes, definitely, it needs courage. After having 150 million exit with PayPal, investing all the money, and building SpaceX and Tesla was a big move, definitely. Um, what is the long-term vision of Anker Capital, Jonas?
Say again.
What is the long-term vision of Anker Capital?
The long-term vision for me is really building Anker Capital into a global player that is generating superior returns for our investors while creating a lot of positive impact.
How do you evaluate whether an opportunity aligns with your investment thesis or not, Jonas?
By doing due diligence on the deal, right? By understanding what they do, what's the problem they want to solve, who are the founders. And then pretty fast, I see or realize if this is something that fits with my beliefs, my visions, what I consider to be important.
What would you say? What leadership principles do you have to need to prove to have a high-performing culture and team?
I strongly believe that actually also in the world that we're now entering with AI, leadership is like raising children, and we all know from psychology and yeah, we know that you need to lead by example, right? It's like telling your kid, hey, you shouldn't smoke cigarettes, but you shouldn't smoke. Okay. We all know statistically the chances are probably 70-80% that your kid will then smoke too. So same is in a company. What you say, what you preach, you need to live it yourself. For me, it's like that vision or that the principle of when the king goes into the war and he fights alongside his knights, they will fight 10 times better and they will actually outperform themselves massively because they have their king, their hero amongst them that is fighting and risking his life with them. And for me, this is really what you need to do as a good leader. You need to be the one that is working the hardest, that is working the most, that is also showing the most success. Not eventually, not necessarily, but I would say it's not harmful if you are the one that is having the most success or build or realizing the most things, because you motivate your team to also grow and develop themselves. So really leading by example is, I would say, the most important thing, while empowering people, which I think is very important as well. So I don't believe in a hierarchy system where you dictate everything, including workflows, which is obviously done in big corporation because you're just one number in 1,000 numbers and you have just one specific role that you need to fulfill because you're just another brick in the wall at the end of the day, as Pink Floyd said so beautifully. I don't believe in being another brick in the wall. I never wanted to be myself. So obviously also hire people in my companies that do not just want to be another brick in the wall, by giving them freedom and say, look, this is the outcome that I want from you. As long as you achieve this outcome, you can fucking do what you want. You can go half a year to Thailand if that is the way for you, if that's the best way for you to work. As long as the results are there, end of the year, I'm happy. And I think this is something that especially my team deeply, deeply appreciates because they have so much more freedom than they have with other employers. Obviously, they know I'm demanding a lot. I want them to work a lot. I want them to achieve a lot, but they're extremely flexible and free in the way they wanna do their job, how they want to gestalten their daily work routines.
Yeah.
And this, I think, is very important, also forward going, where people want to travel more. We have all that around digital nomads, right? People traveling a lot while doing some work on their computers. So yeah, for me, this I would say are the most important things, or at least in my. There are also different leadership styles, and they're not better or worse. They're just different people, different leadership styles, and this is really my leadership style that I strongly believe in, and it has shown tremendous success for my companies.
So, in one sentence, it's about finding entrepreneurs who act in the company as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I would say sub entrepreneurs, right? I built the brand, I built the platform, and
Mhm.
they can work like sub entrepreneurs. They are completely independent. I mean, there are some guidelines, right? It's like there are certain rules that need to be followed, but they're very clear and also very easy to understand and to accept for everybody. And then within these, I would say, Leitplanken. I don't know
Mhm.
the word in English. How do you say Leitplanken?
Framework in this blueprint. Yeah.
In 1 second. That's a good
Mhm.
thing about today's world.
Mhm.
G- Guardrails,
Got it.
guardrails in English. So I just set the guardrails, to be honest. And
Mhm.
within these guardrails, you can move exactly the way you want to, right? If you want to make a lot of curves, do that. If you just want to be a straight line, be that as well, right?
Mhm.
So I think that is important and appreciated.
Jonas, something what we have in common is we are fathers, we are parents, right? What does fatherhood teach you that entrepreneurship doesn't teach you?
I would say from being a father and feeling that love and that deep connection and that experiencing that joy on a daily basis and that curiosity, um, it is a wonderful blessing for every human's life and journey, I would say. And for me, definitely having three girls, maybe on top of that, it made me a much softer, more emotional person.
Mhm.
And coming from my background with a lot of fights at home, in
Mhm.
schools, with teachers, it was
Mhm.
not always an easy way. And having
Mhm.
that warrior mindset that I was born with, basically, that was my way. Everybody has different ways, but I knew very early on that I'm a warrior and I want to go the way of a warrior. That is my journey or part of my journey. So it can also make you sometimes a bit disconnected from your emotions and
Mhm.
from yourself at some point. So having a family, having children, and spending time with them, being a father, um, profoundly and deeply changed me in a very positive way. Because I said it really helps me to be more soft, be more gentle, and
Mhm.
that's actually, I think, a very important quality once you have built something, right? Once you have built a brand, once you have built relationships, once you have built success, I don't need to push or do hard selling the way I maybe had to do 10 years ago. And I actually don't want to, right? Today, my investment thesis or also my offering is completely different from what it was 10 years ago. And I
Mhm.
also realize and see that people really appreciate that, especially when you're 192 and 112 kilos like me. It's actually quite good when you're soft and gentle. Then you're like the gentle giant, basically. And this is, I think, not a bad role to be in.
So start with male energy and end up with female energy. Inspiring.
Exactly,
If you,
exactly.
if you would ask me what does being a father teach me, I would say children are a sponge. I mean, and they are a crazy mirror. You so often see things, positive, negative habits on yourself that the children are mirroring, and then you realize, wow, okay, that comes from me. And secondly, I would say when before I was a father, I was always thinking I'm going to teach my kids so much, and then you realize that your children are teaching you so much more, to be present, to be curious, to be playful. So that's a beautiful thing. Now let's close this chapter on the personal level side. Let's move to venture capital and value insights for founders. Now, Jonas, having reviewed countless of opportunities and maybe hundreds, I would say thousands of pitch decks, what separates exceptional founders from average ones?
The honest answer is you have to be very exceptional yourself first. It starts all with you. That's the brutal and very honest truth. So if you're a very exceptional personality yourself, use that, build your business model around that. So for me, it honestly all starts with the founders. Obviously, when you look at pitch decks, right, there are pitch decks that immediately trigger interest because, but then again, there are also different investor types. So I can honestly just speak for myself again,
Please, please, please.
not for
Yes,
for generality.
yes.
For me, it's I like deals that have a very disruptive character, that really try to solve a problem, they try to add value. Value can be again on many different levels. It can be value for society, it can be value for environment in terms of reducing CO2 emissions, or in terms of how can we clean the oceans, how can we deal with microplastics. Do we have a scalable solution to actually deal with microplastics, which is one of the biggest problems from my point of view,
Mm,
going 20 years in the future. So I like business models that either are very disruptive and want to solve a big problem. Then obviously you also need to have a very impressive team that actually has the skill set to execute that. Or it's a very niche, straightforward business model, which I like as well. If you operate in a very specific niche and it's a very straightforward business model, but I have to say, hey, this is super cool because it's a small niche, but this niche still allows you to build a $1 billion plus company, because today a niche is actually typically quite big, right? So I like this. This is stuff that I really like because it's separating you from the vast majority, right? I don't like deals that pitch decks that read many pitch decks read very similar. These are
mm,
actually for me the deals that are
mm,
like vanishing in the masses, and I
mm,
don't like business models or ideas that are too mediocre that they simply vanish in the masses. I want the exceptional thing, the really super smart, unique way of solving a problem, or how you can create a very attractive business model with amazing unit economics in a very specific niche. For example, currently I'm deeply evaluating an investment into a St. Galler startup from ASG,
mhm,
and they have a very clear, straightforward business model that is scaling well, that is showing quite nice unit economics, and then it's just about renting out spaces, also like Zebra Box.
mhm.
Um, so I really like that because it's a niche. They have a
Specific.
very straightforward, clear business model that is
Mhm,
showing very good unit economics. They have a good founder team. They have a big vision, and that's, for example, something that I like because exactly of that. It's a niche, very straightforward business model that I see is quite scalable.
mhm. You were talking about microplastic and ocean cleaning. There's definitely a project I would like to share with you. It's called Ocean Quest. Jürgen, amazing guy, but we can talk afterwards.
Please tell
Jonas,
me. Happy to look.
Jonas, what is one of the most common fundraising mistakes founder make?
Fundraising mistakes.
The most common.
Probably it's around overselling or overpromising.
Mhm,
I mean, what you see in most pitch decks is that hockey stick, right? And obviously that looks good for a retail investor, but I think if it's a too aggressive growth plan in it, that just really looks like the hockey stick, especially for seasoned investors,
mhm,
that is not creating trust. It is actually doing the opposite.
mhm,
So this is probably one of the most common mistakes. Then over promising and under delivering. This is something that is very common, obviously, as well. It's for me, again, one of my most important due diligence KPIs. Time,
mhm,
also here, when I look at deals, since I'm not a fund, I'm not in an investment deployment hurry. I don't need to deploy capital.
mhm,
So very often I just look at deals, and if I really like them, I just wait half a year, a year. Yeah, maybe the valuation is higher, but does it matter to me? No, it does not.
mhm. I
At least
like
my
it.
downside risk is much smaller.
Mhm. What are the most important metrics that matter during an early stage evaluation for you?
Say again?
What
I
are
couldn't
the
understand.
most what are the most important metrics in early stage evaluations in founders and startups?
I mean, the more early you invest, the less numbers you have to look at. Huh? Let's be clear and honest about that. So the
Mhm.
earlier you invest, the more it's an investment in the founder and their qualities that you assume that they have. So I typically like to invest where when I have also some numbers to look at, even if it's early, like whatever 500,000 to a million ARR, because then at least you have some numbers, you have some clients to talk to.
Mhm.
Um, Still, obviously, at that stage, it's mostly a gut feeling. If I have trust, it's all about trust. If I have trust in the founders,
Mhm.
the later you invest, the more data and numbers you have to analyze and to look at. Obviously,
Mhm.
the end of the spectrum is private equity or late stage private equity investments, where you have
Mhm.
a shitload of data to analyze, right? And then it's much more a numbers driven decision. While when I invest, it's typically much more. Yeah, in the end, it's a gut feeling. Obviously, we try to do a lot of due diligence and rationalize and justify it
Mhm.
with numbers and research and market data and blah blah blah. But
Mhm.
ultimately, it's really a gut feeling. Do I believe
Mhm.
that these people are able to pull it off or not?
Mhm. Jonas, we have seen the dot-com bubble. We have seen the crypto bubble. We're going to see now the AI bubble. And maybe later on, we're going to see the biohacking longevity peptides bubble.
Yes.
What is an industry do you believe will create significant value over the next decade and something you're excited about to invest in?
Also, all the ones you mentioned, I think will create a shitload of value. I mean, AI already now, as we are witnessing and seeing, right? There are some unicorns being built in a year, basically,
Mhm.
because they're creating solutions. So they're adding obviously so much value that they're able to scale that fast. And
Mhm.
we are just at the beginning of that whole AI revolution. Also, when you look
Mhm.
at companies, how they massively improve workflows, right? Reduce costs, work faster. I see it in my own companies.
Mhm.
Thanks to AI, we have 10 people in Anchor Capital. The amount of work we are executing and how fast we can today analyze pitch deck and deals. If you go back 5 years, this is impossible. Also, already now, AI is showing so massive transformative potential and is adding so much value to many businesses.
Mhm.
Everything you said, from AI to longevity, biohacking,
Mhm.
I'm a big believer in all these industries. Obviously, as you said correctly, there are also some bubbles, but that's just the way young
It's part of the
technologies or young
cycle.
markets were, right? It was the same with the dot-com bubble, but today, Google, Amazon, Apple are the most powerful companies on the planet, right? And
Mhm.
they were children of the dot-com bubble.
Mhm.
So it's the same I see here. You will have a few winners that consolidate that really will be champions. I would guess today it's Anthropic, much more than OpenAI.
Mhm.
But again, that can change. Maybe in 1 year, OpenAI will have developed such a much better model versus Claude that they will again be in the lead. But there are some big winners in all these industries for sure. And I actually like all of the industries you mentioned. Also
Mhm.
from AI, where we have so many AI investments, from AI infrastructure, from AI wrappers to actually in one deep tech deal, we develop our own AI model that we feed with proprietary owned data because it's causal data points, which is amazing to then develop a model that is very accurate.
Mhm.
So one opportunity that you asked me, I'm very excited about, is definitely that deep tech slash life science deal that we now spent 2 years working on. Is a ETH spin-off from Zurich,
Mhm.
and there we really try to fundamentally change biology by developing a new model slash a new understanding of how the human cell works.
Mhm.
Because if you look at science, right, science is nothing else than creating models that are verifiable,
Mhm.
and this model tries to explain something that happens in nature. But
Mhm.
then 50 years later, 100 years later, somebody else comes, and thanks to new technologies, he's able to find a better model how an
Mhm.
atom works or how a cell works, right? And
Mhm.
then that more accurate model allows you again to have massive breakthroughs. And
Mhm.
what we are doing with CytoSearch, actually, we are patenting it as we speak
Mhm.
because we are pretty sure that we found in our proprietary owned data a new understanding of how the human cell works that allows you to move from that very try and error based concept that today is seen in medicine, in big pharma, in drug research, to a way more deterministic understanding and model of the human cell, which then obviously allows you to massively, for example, save money when it comes to R&D for drug research. Today we're talking 250 billion of annual spending for R&D. We are pretty sure we can at least half that thanks to cytosearch technology. So you're talking over $100 billion in annual savings. What's the value of a technology? What's the price tag of a technology of that? Very hard to say. Very hard to say. It could be a trillion, right? It's pretty hard to say. But this is something that I'm extremely excited about because obviously, again, I said in the beginning, I want to make superior returns for my LPs while creating a lot of impact. And this is one of the best examples that is really proving and demonstrating that while changing and completely transforming, disrupting whole industries, you can actually make so much money while doing that. Again, it's what Elon Musk did, right? With Tesla, with SpaceX. He completely disrupted, changed industries for good, forever, right? All the car producers today are building electric vehicles, all of them. Not 20 years ago, everybody would have laughed at you, right? But then one man with a crazy mind came and he did it. He changed the whole industry. So this is a deal I'm extremely excited about, and this is exactly the kind of stuff that I want to do much more in the future, because there we add massive value to humanity at the end of the day. Because if you understand the human cell in a way we hopefully understand it soon, you can have such a positive impact on biology, on medicine. Precise medicine is really, it's very close, I would say, precise medicine. And basically the missing link to make precise medicine a reality is causal data points in biology. And we have causal data points already today. So that is something I'm deeply excited about.
Super cool. My next question would have been, Jonas, what is the project you're most excited about? But you just gave the answer. So,
I mean, I'm excited about many projects, to be honest. But if you ask me also about impact and yeah, I would say this really highlights that combination of creating a big impact, because potentially we will reach billions of people with that deal, while obviously making a shitload of money for all the investors in it. Yeah.
Jonas, in our School of Impact, one of the first lessons, we teach people the one logline concept. And that's the following. In a world where problem, we create transformation, and we achieve this with our unique mechanism. Because I often have experienced this Daniel Düsentrieb type of founder, this genius guy, super into his topic, maybe can change the world, but he's so bad in converting it in a simple way to define it. And
Yes.
we help people by showcasing the movies in this one sentence logline, then companies like Airbnb and Spotify and so on. How important is it for you when a founder comes and they have to define their business in one sentence?
Extremely important. I think actually this would be one of the biggest mistakes as well that I see. What your previous question, that many founders are not able to do a good elevator pitch. I'm actually honestly, again and again, I'm surprised how bad founders are at doing an elevator pitch. And this is the most important thing if you start pitching.
Yes.
If you pitch to a smart, high level, seasoned investor,
Yes.
I listen to you maybe for 2 minutes, and if I don't really understand or see what you do or why this should be a cool big thing, you lost me, right? We live in the time of Instagram and Facebook today, right? The attention span of all of us, you, me, all of us, we have such a short attention span, right? So the skill to tell you in a few sentences what you do and why this matters, this is so critical. And you're very right. Many people are not able to do that. It's a big problem, I think, and something founders need to focus on. How do I present my deal to somebody that never heard about what I do in 3 sentences, explain what you do and why it matters.
Yes. And it's so important not only for fundraising, but imagine, Jonas, you want to attract talents, you want to attract people, partners, right? And if we have such a short attention span, this one logline sentence sticks to you, and you can also share it with other people, right? And so it's such an important thing. And I wished I would have learned it much earlier in my journey with ESC Trust. Today, I can say in one sentence, in a world where 85% of the employees are unsatisfied, in a world where 45% of the millennials want more purpose, more impact, more freedom, we have developed an education platform that connects purpose with capital. And we do this not only by traditional matchmaking, but with real human interaction and connection. So I wished I would have learned this much earlier. Now, Jonas, the reality is it's not just a journey that goes constantly upwards, right? Many founders struggle. Many founders have challenging phases, rock bottom moments.
Of
How do you
course,
support, how do you support companies during difficult periods?
for me, not for me, it's just the way learning functions. Learning functions 3 steps forwards, 2 steps back, 3 steps forwards, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward. But then the average, obviously, is an upward trend. That's the way you learn, and that's how you develop companies, right?
Mhm.
So obviously, in all my ventures that I launched myself, or ventures where I'm a very active investor and board member, we have problems and we face difficult times. But let's define quickly what makes a great entrepreneur. And one of the most
Yes.
important skills for me is a good entrepreneur or a great entrepreneur is somebody that is extremely fast at solving problems. Because as an entrepreneur, that's all what you do. You every day solve problems. You solve problems in your team. You solve problems with the technology that doesn't work as it's supposed to. You solve problems with clients. Maybe you have problems with a competitor. You have a legal fight where you need to solve problems. So all you do is solving problems, right? That's what you do on a daily basis. So obviously, that's also what I like, to be honest. I love to solve problems because we are pretty good at solving problems and finding creative, efficient solutions. And
Mhm.
obviously, what we do in many deals where we are actively involved, I'm a board member, and there
Mhm.
we have a lot. For example, today we had a board meeting in Sequence. This is a deal that we incubated for 1 year. It's an AI company from Geneva, where I went in as a lead together with Stena, 5 billion family from Sweden, and Reinhard Donkers, the former CEO of Vonovia, which is the biggest real estate company from Germany. So we are currently on a weekly base speaking once or twice with the founder, with the board of directors, to make very critical and very important strategic decisions, because we got a fintech license. 5 companies in Switzerland have a fintech license, which is already great. This is an asset. That this is a real achievement. But then comes the question: how you develop that?
Mhm.
Shall we do it ourselves? Should we do a JV? Should we sell it? There are so many different routes what to do with it, right? So now we have weekly 1, 2, 3, 4 calls, meetings to discuss what shall we do, what's the best way to develop it, and that's the way we solve it, by being very present, by having a very open dialogue,
Mhm.
by having a very sharp, reflected dialogue, being critical. It's like, for me, it's like a mental sparring session, right? We always say that we are very good sparring partners for founders by challenging their ideas, their concepts, their go-to-market strategies, whatever is relevant. And that's also what obviously founders like a lot, because we have a lot of experience. I built some companies myself, so we're a very good sparring partner for our portfolio companies.
Mhm. Jonas, in a successful founder investor relationship, recently we had this conversation with some of the people in the Impact Accelerator, and it was about uh, as a founder, you often have to be the confident person. And we talked today about aggression, positive aggression, right? Now, on the other hand, if you go more into the feminine energy, it's about to be vulnerable, to also speak with your investor about weaknesses, about pain points, right? What would you recommend a founder to be always confident, to be always super positive, or also to open up and share about uh, emotions and difficult topics?
It depends towards whom, Stefan.
We talk between investor and founder.
Again, is it investors that you wanna win for your latest funding round, or are it current investors that you consider or deem to have strategic value?
Okay, so it's a difference between investors who are already involved and new investors.
No, it's more a difference for me between strategic investors versus passive investors.
How do you mean?
So if somebody is a passive investor that just should invest whatever $500,000 into your funding round,
Hmm.
and you know he cannot really add value on a strategic level,
Hmm.
I would never ever talk about my problem. I mean, don't lie. Yeah? Lying is bad. Lying is shit. But you don't need to tell him about your problems and issues unless he's really specifically asking for it, because you just want the money from him. You want him to invest to support your funding round. But if you have strategic investors that are sitting in your board or people that that helped you on your journey, and you know they can give you good advice, of course, open up and talk to them, get advice. But I would never. If you lose the trust of your investors, they will not invest. As simply as that, right? And if you talk too much about problems and about issues and stuff, eventually you can lose their trust.
Yeah.
So it's a thin. I would say it's a very thin line, to be honest.
Yeah.
But again, if you have strategic investors, of course you should use their experience, their wisdom, their network, their inputs. And to have that, you need to open up and tell, hey, we have the problem here, we have that problem here. What's your advice? What would you do? Can you help us? How can you help us?
Interesting perception. Thank you for sharing. Uh, Three more questions. What are your expectations during the first 12 months after investing, Jonas?
Also, the way we invest, I expect within the first 12 months to see massive growth. Also, typically at least 100%, if not more. If a business is not profitable, typically we expect the business to reach profitability within 12 months. Again, it
Yeah.
depends a bit on the industry. But for sure, in 12 months, because we invest early on, 12 months is a lot of time. I expect massive progress. Also, basically, all the investments we made the last years, within 1 year, these were two different companies. Also, some companies they quadrupled their revenue, reaching profitability within 1 year. Other companies just doubled the revenue, but they onboarded very big strategic clients that massively supported the business model, the business case, and also the perception towards investors and towards the outside world. Right? If you suddenly have UBS or Swisscom as a client, yeah, it's a different game you're talking when you then reach out to your investors or to new investors and say, hey, actually we're not only selling to SMEs now, we're also selling to very big corporates like UBS. So it's a very different story you're selling. So within 12 months, I'm expecting massive progress.
Nice. Um, the one question that I was keen to ask you today, and we talked briefly about it when we met at your dinner, is you have three beautiful daughters now. How do you envision them to be raised up? Is it the current education system? Do you wish them to become entrepreneurs, or how? Yeah, how do you see this topic of education?
Also, first of all, I wish all my children to be happy and free. And being happy and free means they shall go and find their own path. I would never say you need to be entrepreneur. No, why? Being an entrepreneur also sucks and is very intensive and hard. And it's not very few people are cut out to be entrepreneurs. So I would never say, hey, you have to be an entrepreneur. I would say, yeah, take a look at it, maybe even try it. But no, you don't have to be anything in my world, because that's exactly how you make it hard for your kids. If you have too much expectations, what they should do, how they should be, that's not I had that, and it was very negative for me. So I
Mm,
don't want to give the same to my kids. So
mhm,
first of all, I want them to be free and happy
mhm,
and go their own path.
mhm.
I'm not sure, or I'm not very sure about the education system. We spoke about that several times. I think the educational system we have today goes back to the Industrial Revolution, and
Yeah.
Rockefeller said it quite nicely. He said, "We need workers, not thinkers," and that
Yes.
is the school system we have today.
Yes.
This is one issue I see, and the other issue I see is if you are too left or too right of the spectrum or of being average, then
Mm,
the school system is fucking torture. That means if you're a very slow learner or if you're extremely fast learner, both is horrible in today's school system.
mm,
And again, I had to go through that myself, and for me,
mm,
school was really a big pain and sometimes really very, very much of a horror, to be honest. So I don't want to force them into a system that they were not made to be in.
mm.
Uh,
Yes.
and
Same
there
here.
I'm very open to. There are so many different opportunity possibilities today, right? I have friends that are doing homeschooling, and
Yes.
it's in that case it's the mother that is really spending a lot of time with the kids.
Yeah.
There are really many different models that I think can work. And again, it's so specific for each child because every child is so different. It can
Mhm.
be that one child is extremely happy in a private school that is teaching them a lot of science or that is helping them to educate their physical talents like sports or playing instruments. For me, it's important to not. I was forced into a system I was not born to be in. It's as simple as
Same.
that.
Same.
I want my kids to, or I will find the right environment for
Mhm.
my kids to prosper in. And this is very, very important for me that this is the
Mhm.
approach and not like, oh, you're too loud. Oh, you made a mistake. Oh, the teacher said you're too whatever, right? And then it's like, you are not right. You are wrong. You need to change yourself. And I said, for me, this was a very was connected or then related with a lot of physical and emotional pain.
Mhm.
Much of that I admitted to myself, as it was self-inflicted,
Mhm.
which I now see and understand in retro perspective. But obviously, when you're a young kid and you want to please your parents, you want to be loved by your parents. This is very,
Mhm.
very human, and it's in our human nature. So
Mhm.
for me, this is very, very important that I do not do that with my kids. If they
Mhm.
don't fit into a specific school system, they're not wrong. It's not their mistake or their wrong being. It's
Yes.
just the system is not made for them.
Yes, it's like having a fish on a tree and say, "Hey, what is wrong with you?" And
Yeah,
that's some
go climb up the tree, you little fish, right? Exactly. Yeah.
and that's somehow how I felt my whole life. And I would like to make a case study and figure out how many humans worldwide feel this way. I mean, there are case studies that we know today that say 85% of the people who are employed are unsatisfied. 45% of the millennials, nearly every second millennial, wants more purpose, more impact, more freedom. We know 80% of the jobs by 2030 doesn't exist yet. So the current education system is teaching our kids for a system in the world that will not be there in 4 years, in 5 years. So if you ask me, Jonas, the mission we are at with Yes We Trust is to disrupt the education system. And I see a big pain point in the world of people who want more purpose, more impact, more freedom.
Yes.
And okay, last question for today. If founders watching today could remember only one lesson from your entrepreneurial and investment journey, what would that lesson or message be?
Believe in yourself, be persistent, disciplined, honest to yourself, and stay while doing that and being that, stay open and see the opportunities when they're presented to you, because many people do not see that. They're not open enough in their vision, in their perspective, to then actually really see and grasp the opportunities when they're being presented to you. In German, you call it Zufall, coincidence. And actually, German language is an extremely precise and scientific language. There is a reason why a lot of really big scientific breakthrough came from German science. There are thousands examples, right? And for me, one of the reasons is when you learn a language, there are certain ways of thinking or how your brain works. Semantics has a massive impact on your brain structure, that is proven. So Zufall, it actually comes from zugefallen. But if something falls towards you, you
Then
also
it's
need to catch it. If you don't catch it, like it's if I throw a ball at you, a ball made of gold, worth 100,000 Swiss francs. If you don't catch that ball, you will not have it, right? So staying open, having the open mind to actually see and realize when a gold nugget is being presented to you and grasp that, that is so fucking important. So the combination of that, being persistent, being laser focused on your vision, self confident, while staying open in your vision and your emotions, your feelings, to actually see and realize when God, which is the universe, is presenting you an opportunity.
Dear Jonas, thank you for your time. Thank you for your precious golden nuggets and wisdom that you shared today. And I'm excited about the next steps ahead. For everyone who tuned in, that was it. See you next Tuesday, 7 p.m. for the next House of Trust live stream session. And Jonas, in the meantime, I wish you and the family all the best.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Thank you for having me. It was very interesting and actually also a lot of fun. And I deeply hope that some of the people watching can take some insights that are relevant and helpful to their own journey. Thank
If
you for
people
having
want to,
me.
if people want to connect with you, Jonas, best case on LinkedIn or on your webpage.
So yeah, best way is on LinkedIn or Instagram. Yeah, that's probably the best way.
Nice. Thank you so much for being here, Jonas.